Good afternoon, everyone. And as you know, my name is Zenzi Sewa, and welcome to this stage of infinity, spiritual infinity. And my guest today is all the way in Toronto, Canada, and it's snowing out there. Here in London, it's raining. It's not so dull as it can be. But as I say, it's marvelous when you stop to think that here I am at probably what time? About 1:30 in the morning. And my guest is 8:30 in the morning, all the way in Canada, behind, in front, and yet we're all here at the same time. Her name is Danya Wylder. She's an author, energy healer, and other things which she's going to talk about. And as you know, it is about our spiritual journey. What caused us to get on that path? Because we are spiritual beings with a physical body having a human experience, and we've been asleep for a long time. And we're now in a stage of being shaken to awaken. And so what awakened each one of my guests, and I'm sure you're looking wherever you are in the world, things are happening to you, and you need to understand how to maneuver it. So without much ado, I'm going to pass you over to Danya in Canada, Toronto. Morning, Danya.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being here, because it's 8:30 in the morning for you. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, I love talking about these things, and I'm happy to be here. And morning is really my time of day anyway. I love this time of day, and especially even earlier in the morning, because I am also a yoga teacher. And in yoga, we think about our constitutions and the time of day as being very important. And so in this time right now, in the Vata energy, this is the most spiritually aligned. So for me to be having this conversation at this time and early in the morning is meaningful. And I love that you alluded to this fact that we're in two different times, but yet we're having this moment. And to me, that is a beautiful way to understand this idea that time and physicality is really just a construct that's in this reality, because otherwise, how are we both having this conversation instantaneously when we're not even in the same time? And so when people start to think about a spirit then, or about timelines, or about other lives, or any of these other things, and even as an energy healer for myself, people have a hard time when I say, I can read the frequency of your body and then decide what's out of tune and play a frequency back for healing. And people think, oh, that's woohoo, or it's out there. But I mean, it is no different than the fact that we have this internet connection right now. It is the same principle that we have a frequency, like an emitter and an antenna and a receiver and a broadcast, and we are exchanging. And energy and time and spirituality works in this same, what seems like a magical way, but really we understand it in a scientific level when we think about technology, but somehow we don't understand that our bodies, technology is designed from us, from consciousness. We created the technology in our own image, much the way we think of God as creating us in his image.
Yes. Oh, you're so correct. And I like what you just said. We created technology to suit us and for us to understand. Likewise, the creator created us in his own image. So therefore, I think it's only natural that we should really sit back and try. And when I say sit back, just be still and connect to our source, so that we know and we get guidance on how to function.
Yeah, and this is, I think, the fundamental part of my strategy when I help people to heal, and even part of my own journey, is that stillness and making space. And meditation has been foundational for me, and it is in all of the other practices that I do and that I teach with people, because we have so many dissident frequencies, and we have so many competing toxic things and very loud signals in our life. And whether that is just the avatar and the ego that we're playing, and this need to achieve and to do, and this fast-paced news that we're always under, and the Wi-Fi and the toxic food, and the toxic people in our life, we have so many things that are competing very loud for our attention. But spirit and our higher self is a much quieter signal. It's more subtle, and we need to make space in order for that, that insight and intuition to come to us. but we're
Yeah.
bombarded with way too many things. And so this idea of tuning in and quieting our lives makes the space in order for us to hear what we need to hear.
You're absolutely correct. We do need that quiet time. We do need to be still. And that was shown to us by force. And yet it was a gift in 2021 when we had that world COVID situation and everything was shut down. And we were forced to be still, stay in our own spaces. And it made people a lot more aware. It gave them time to think, to breathe, and to observe better.
Well, this one for me was like a double whammy because I didn't just have at that time the COVID restrictions and lockdowns, and I started homeschooling my kids and I was working at home. So, I mean, I had that, but I had this major health crisis at the time, and they paired, and I actually think they're very energetically linked. And I think I'll back that up just to give a precursor to the story is when my kids the first time the schools locked down and I was like, okay, I guess I'm the teacher now. I didn't really have a lesson plan. So I thought, we're going to do a vision board because, my kids, they're also on autopilot. So maybe they need to figure out a way to really see what it is they want out of their life now that we have this time to reflect. And on the vision board, I put down a backyard that had a whole bunch of people hosting because living in downtown Toronto, I had a small backyard, small house, couldn't really have family and parties. And I put space and mountains, which represented to me, I wanted more space and time because my life then felt very much, and I was did a lot of years as a single mom. My life was hurry up, get dressed, get ready, let's go, get to daycare, get to work, come back, and then it's brownies and it's swimming lessons and hurry up, and then we go to bed and we start again, and we never spend any time together. And on top of the vision board, I wrote this quote, discipline is the difference between what you want now and what you want most. I don't really know why I hand wrote that. I just put it in there. And then during that time, we decided to move. And I can't believe I wanted to move. I had manifested my Toronto life with my downtown corporate job in the financial district and my downtown house. But I decided all of a sudden that if we're going to be locked down, I want to have green space. I want something different. I want to take my kids. And the city, we were getting lockdowns, not just for COVID, but a lot of gun violence in my neighborhood. And I was thinking, I think we can do better than this probably. So we moved out to the suburbs, which was something I said I would never do. But on the second time we came to show my kids the house, I'm parked outside just looking at the first, sold sign. And I noticed that the park is called Beswick, and I grew up on Berwick. And I'm like, isn't this so interesting that the park is almost identical to where I grew up beside my public school? There's a quote about discipline on the park sign. And so I'm like, I have really down to the T manifested this new life. And then all of a sudden, not only is it just the COVID restrictions, but my health just tanks. I wake up one morning, I can't walk. And then 2 weeks later, I can't hold my trunk up. Then my hands and my arms go, and then my eyesight goes. And now I'm went from being this super mom and I'm doing everything and so highly productive, A-type personality, to being completely couch, where I can't do anything other than just be silent and still in my head because I can't read a book. I can't even hold a remote to watch TV, let alone like a drink or to take care of myself. And so all of a sudden I realized I got the space and time from my vision board, but I probably should have been a little more clear about what I wanted because perhaps I didn't want it to be so extreme. But like when you were just saying in the beginning about listening to the subtle signals, I had a life where I disconnected, like 40 years up to that point where I did not listen to all of the subtle things my body and my soul was trying to tell me. And so because I didn't listen when it was quiet, I got a very loud signal that said, like, you will now do nothing other than be quiet and start to meditate and go inward, because I was forced to. That was all I really had left, was to be in my mind. And once you are, like, I had meditated previously to that, but meditation, again, almost like the way I used to do yoga, as something I had to do, right? It was another thing I was checking off my list every day. Like, oh, I'm good today. I ate my veggies and I did my yoga and I did this. It wasn't because I was aligned with it. It was because I thought I needed to do it. But all of a sudden, when I was forced to live there, I came to meditate in such a deeper and more profound way, because I really got in touch with myself. And that seemed like punishment maybe in the moment, but it was, like you're saying, even with COVID, it becomes a gift once you can make meaning out of it and purpose.
Yes.
because I got so many fundamental lessons out of that in my life. And you know, as my body failed, my heart healed. And when my once my heart started to heal, my body caught up to the signal and went, oh, okay, we're living in a different emotion, a different state. Now I can relax, my nervous system can release, and we can heal here too. But I needed one in order to get the other.
Now, it's interesting what you just said. As your body failed, your heart healed. But you see, what happened, as you've been saying, when your body failed, it forced you to look in a different direction, and therefore turning your mind and being still and finding other things and that spiritual path which needed a reconnection for your heart to connect to, and then healing that which we are truly are. Is we our first thing is from our heart, and our heart is connected to the creator. It's the first organ that's made, and that is so important. Please
Yeah,
continue.
yeah, I think that one of the things I think I learned during meditation. So once I was sitting outside, and I mean, I'm glad I still moved because now I did live in this beautiful place with greenery, and I had a beautiful English garden and a pool in my backyard. Something that I definitely, if I lived in the city, I never would have had that kind of a lifestyle. So me and my elderly dog would just sit in the backyard all day. And at first, it was trying to listen to the birds because I thought, well, that's a nice thing. Like that, you know, forest bathing and forest healing is a real thing when we get back and connect to nature, because
Yeah.
that is where we're supposed to live as humans, with nature, and understanding that we're connected to all of that as well, not separate. And so I would listen to the birds, but you know, I would find some frustration in that as well because my eyesight was very poor. So I would have a hard time identifying where the bird was. And if it took flight, MS is such a hard thing to explain because MS was the disease that I have. It became like pixelated, almost like my hologram or my blueprint isn't functioning. And
Mhm,
so like the bird appears and then it disappears and then it reappears, like I'm glitching.
mhm,
And I would be kind of frustrated with that, but I sat with it for a long time, just listened to the birds. And then after a while, I felt like I could go deeper than birds even, and I started to hear like the crickets and like the insect life around. And it was
wow.
easy because now I could drop from the birds into this quieter level. And then after I practiced that for about a month, I could drop down to hearing electrical hums or even like these electrical signals of buildings near me. And then eventually at some point, I became such a practice meditator that I could start to hear almost like the om or the primordial frequency of the earth. And I became so in tune that I could, and it was amazing because now any distraction, it didn't bother me. Like I could hear all of a sudden somebody's lawnmower, their dog barking, and it never took me out of that place. I could notice it, but I could drop back in. And ever since that prolonged period of meditation, I find it so much easier now to like, because obviously we can't stay, we're not monks, we don't live in a mountain, we can't stay in meditation. And my life is definitely not there now. I have a business again. I'm, you know, driving and parents, I'm doing all the daily activities. But that lesson of stillness has given me the ability now that at come almost at any moment, once I kind of focus inward again, that I can go right back to that place of like me, and not me, the avatar, like not Dana Wylder me, but me that's that fractal piece of light, that other part that's just witnessing from my vantage point. And that's
Yeah.
all I'm doing is just witnessing the world. And that witnessing kind of detaches you from being upset about so many other things, because the world stops being an external thing that's happened to you and it starts to be an internal journey where I'm witnessing the thing instead of it happening to me.
You know, it's music to my ears what you're saying, that once you've gone there and you've reached that and you've been able to lock into that energy, it doesn't stop you from living the life that you're meant to live. What it's done, it's made you aware so that you give time to that to help you to take that journey and walk those steps on the proper path. And
Well,
the
yeah,
fact
because
these things are wonderful.
yeah, because we are meant to be living in a 3D reality right now. This is where we are in the human experience. And in the human experience, I mean, whether it's illusionary or not, the illusion is space and time and a physical body. And so
Yeah.
we have to have a bit of ego and avatar in order to navigate our world. We have to have a
Yes.
career, we have to have a personality, we have to have a name, we have to still label and identify, because that's how language works and what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
But
Research.
we have,
Yeah.
yeah, but we also need to understand that that's not truly who we are, that is just what we're playing almost with right now, to learn a
Yes.
lesson, to experience life. But there's
Yes.
something that's at a much deeper level than that, that's more
Mhm.
meaningful, and that we need to stay connected to. And
Yes.
and then also even to think that whatever it is that we are playing, this avatar, that what is the purpose of it? Like, and
Yes.
if we're not connected to the higher self, then that avatar is running amok. And that's when we think of ego in the negative way, where you're
Yeah.
egotistical, narcissistic, you're, even, nihilistic, or you just, maybe you're not even a bad person, but you're just, disconnected. You're just on autopilot. Everything is meaningless. I mean, that's not really a life well lived. And
Mhm.
not everybody needs to go as far as I did, where you need to have such this terrible experience happen to you to have your suffering alchemize into meaning. But to me, it was a bit of a gift to look at it this way, because whenever I now am coming off my path, my MS triggers again. So,
Yeah.
and now, because I know that that's my body trying to tell me, you have missed the path, you've missed the mark, get back a different direction. It is now like a compass. So now
Mhm.
it's really like, it's to me like a superpower almost now, because some people might like their back isn't pushed against the wall enough. They're not in enough pain that they feel
Yes.
motivated to have to change. So
Yes.
my MS did definitely motivate me. It said, you must do something to change. It was dramatic. And I'm almost glad that happened, because I would rather have had that push me into a new direction than to have just kind of lived in just low level anxiety and discontent forever. Because now I'm definitely clear about what my purpose is. I'm in touch with my higher self, and it guides me all of the time. And just like those vision boards, I always look at those synchronicities as like the universe giving me a little high five saying, yep, you're on the right path. Keep going. That's the way. When I get off the path, my eyesight gets weak, my body gets fatigued. And I'm like, okay, obviously that's not where I'm supposed to go. Try again.
Yeah.
So it's a
You know,
wonderful.
it's what you're saying is so wonderful, because here you are with this MS, and instead of saying, woe is me, why me, that you've been able to recognize that the MS is part of your, it's almost as like it's there to protect you. And it didn't work out that way. I mean, you had to go through that way, but it's a trigger to say you're not doing the right thing, you're not, and listening. And it's wonderful that you are able to look at that and now realize that it's not such a bad thing. It was there to help me, because this is who I really am. It helped you to find yourself again and to understand that. And so many people are out there going through the same thing, and just listening to this. And as you said, we're all different. Not everybody's going to have MS. It triggers us in different ways, but it's for us to understand why that pain, why that imbalance has occurred, and realize it is an imbalance.
Yeah, and the MS it was protective actually in a lot of ways, even out beyond what we're talking about right now, because I think, I had grown up with addiction in my early childhood, and so it's very unstable trauma. And then I had an abusive marriage for almost 20 years. And so my whole life I was very high functioning in this perfectionist type personality, where if I manage and control the chaos, everything is going to be okay, not
Mhm.
really having needs myself, but just worrying about like, what is everybody else's needs, eggshells, make sure it's all okay for everybody. And the MS then gave me a chance, because I wasn't respecting my own boundaries, and
This
I
is it.
wasn't setting them for myself. And because I'm such a mentally strong person, mentally,
Yeah.
I was never going to say, no, I can't function. No, I can't do it. No, I'd say no to other people, that this is too much for me. So my
Yeah.
body answered for me. My
Yeah.
body said, well, okay, fine. Your mind doesn't have to say you're weak then. The body will get weak. The body will sit down. And now people are not going to knock on your door. Your family's not going to come. People are not going to demand things from you, because they're going to go, oh, well, look, it's not her fault. She has MS now. And I'm not blaming anybody for their disease, first of
No,
all.
no,
So
no,
I don't want
no,
that to come off as flippant to people who are suffering. But at least in my own case, that was the meaning I got out of it, was
Yeah,
that the MS gave me permission to slow down and to not do things. And it didn't have to come from the ego, it came
no,
from the body. And so
yeah,
this is when I was saying earlier about when my body broke, my heart healed. Because once I
yeah.
started to understand those things, I went, well, maybe I should love myself a little more. Maybe I should have boundaries that are a little more intact. Maybe I shouldn't allow these things to happen to myself. Maybe putting myself first is not selfish. Maybe like in the plane, the oxygen mask, you put it on yourself so that you can help other people. I am
Yeah.
better for my children when I take good care of myself. And so it wasn't selfish to have needs. And the MS showed me that. And now, because I can set those boundaries, now my body and my nervous system calm down.
Everything you're saying, it just hits the nail on the head, because a lot of us are living life where we're people pleasers simply because we feel that's the way to do. That's the way to live our lives, for us to be happy, to never to say no, to always doing, to always giving. And it's time that we stop to think about ourselves, because it's breaking us. And some of the things we're saying yes, yes, yes to is not right. And when we say no, we seem to think that it's upsetting somebody else. But sometimes that saying no is right for us, but it's also right for them, because they have to do things in a different way. And life is so deep and we don't understand that. But it's always, as you said, we have to listen to ourselves. What makes us happy? Because when we're happy and we're treading and doing the right thing and we're connected, ultimately, whatever we do for others is the right thing. Even if we have to say no, it is the right thing. And so it's wonderful hearing you say this, that you
So,
started to talk to yourself.
yeah. And, this was, I think, the ultimate journey for me for my healing. And I had like a kind of like a come to moment. And it was actually the inspiration for writing my book, which, because even when I was trying to originally heal my MS, I started in the physical body with diet, exercise, and even when I was doing yoga, then it was very much about the asanas or the poses. It was another thing where it was almost competitive, like, can I get deeper into the bends? Can I do this thing a little bit better, right? Like, and not even necessarily in competition with other people, but myself to do more. And the physical body only takes you so far because it is an illusion. It is governed by energy and spirit. So then I started learning about energy medicine and I got into healing the energy body. And then I got into the mental body because I
Yes.
started to understand, even if I added extra energy in, if my thoughts were not, if they were leaking energy because they were toxic and negative, then, the energy didn't hold. So I learned about the mental body. And then I got into wisdom. So now it's like, well, it's not just all the knowledge you have, but like the wisdom that you can gain out of it. And now we're
Mhm.
getting more into like morality and your virtues and the principles you're going to live by. But it was this moment that I was sitting on my couch and I was listening to house music. And I love, for anybody that doesn't know what house music, it's kind of like dance, rave, culture music. And it was the starting for me when I was younger. I loved to go to raves and I loved dancing in that kind of trance where everybody's in that same, you're all pumping to the bass together. But it was escapism back then because it went with like drugs and numbing myself and, disconnecting. And so as I was sitting there on the couch and I'm all these years later where I'm so wanting to be in my body again. And so the idea of disconnecting is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking to re-embody. I want to be back in connection. But the house music is still so meaningful to me. And as I was sitting there and the sunlight is like shining through the window on my face, and I was having one of those moments where you're connected to spirit because you're like, it's just so beautiful. The music and the light and the nature and everything. Like I can, all I feel is bliss. Bliss is
Yes.
just within me. And it doesn't matter that my body's not working right now because I'm so full of life's beauty and grace. And I thought, if my body can remember how to dance, it remembers. And everything I'm doing up to this point is, again, I'm not being. I'm doing yoga, I'm doing the diet, I'm doing the rehab, I'm just going to get up and start trying to dance right now. And my body will remember bliss because that is the vibration that we are meant to live in. It is our original source. That is like love, compassion, bliss is the natural state. And I got up and I'm not going to say it was a miracle. I didn't just start, owning a dance floor again, but I definitely something changed in that moment. My body moved with more ease and with more lightness. And this is when I went, I got it. It is the bliss body. This is the ultimate state of healing. And even though in my book, I do take people from the physical all the way up, because we live in a physical body so much, and most of us are stuck there. I think we need to kind of start there, like I did on my path, because we have to kind of come to our own realization that once we finally get to that ultimate state of bliss, and much like coming back to when I was meditating, once I got down to that state of hearing the primordial sound and then being able to go back into my life, but dropping back into it again, it's the same thing with the bliss. Like once you know what bliss is, and whether it is for you like a sunset, or it's a baby's gummy smile, or it is connecting to God, or whatever it is for people that brings them that sense of everything is just perfect and as it should be, and I am in my place within it, all of a sudden none of it matters. And I stopped trying to overcome my MS. Even I just went, it's all just okay. Whether I stay sick, whether I get better, whether it doesn't really matter what happens, because bliss is within me. It is always part of me. And really wherever life leads me down this path, I am loved. I am loved and I love. And that's really like, it doesn't really matter. Even if I do that from the couch again, because my MSA gets bad, then so what? So be it. That I'm going to do it from the couch, but my heart is still going to be connected to that higher frequency. And I actually really believe once you're connected to there, that your body and all the other things, your mind, everything else just heals, because you're in the frequency of healing, love, and light.
You are so right. And I absolutely love what you're saying. Everything is within. And because you're connected, and you said you are love, you are loved, and you do love. And it is love that the Creator created us. Unconditional love. Doesn't matter what your body's doing, what this is doing, when you can hold on to that and you're on that frequency, as you say, you get healed anyway. But when you're living that, you're seeing everything in a different light, in a different way. And it is such a wonderful thing that you don't judge, and you just not just accept, but you start to understand things more deeply, and life becomes different, and you see things in a different way, and you react things, and that stress, because that MS was caused by stress and being disconnected from who you are. But when you're connected, that stress goes, and you think differently, you act differently, and your life takes on a different meaning. And I can hear it in what you're saying, and even the energy you're giving out, and not minding anymore, and accepting that MS for what it is, but it helps you to connect and be on that path. And that journey you're talking, listening to the sounds around you. And you're so right, you're so true. There are things that we miss because we're clogged, and we need to be unclogged.
Yeah, well, that actually reminds me of my favorite yoga term. Once I became a yoga teacher, and I went way beyond, because when I started to teach yoga, I couldn't do balance poses. I still can't do tree pose or dancer's pose. But my class attracts a different group of followers, because we do a more spiritual practice and sound healing, and something that connects more to the path and the purpose really of yoga, which isn't really just about back bends. Yeah. And one of the things I think that does is it gives other people permission to maybe also not be perfect, because sometimes they're showing up with their own insecurities or their own other feelings. But what it really taught me, yoga, my favorite thing I teach everybody in all my classes, is pratyahara. And this is sense withdrawal. And so this means we are and this is why I think what at the pinnacle of that MS relapse, I was way too plugged into politics. And I was plugged into the news cycle, and I just couldn't stop. And I am a highly sensitive person. So every time I would watch something, it was flooding me with these biochemistry of negative emotions. And I was crying all the time, and I was so stressed, and and I was feeling all of this pressure and anxiety. And I think that once I started to realize you need to sometimes disconnect all of those things. And sometimes we need to unplug, and we need to just, stop being so, and it's, it was a hard one for me because at the same time you want to still walk a path where you care. And I think
Yeah.
this is a hard one for me, where it's like, how do you still have a path and have an outcome that you're hoping for and that you're working towards, have values, have beliefs, and be aligned with those values, but then also be okay when things don't go the way you want them to go. And that's a hard lesson to learn. And that's also one of, like, forgiveness is mixed up in that as well too, and just accepting with what is, and kind of knowing that. And I think, ultimately it came down to me that you're going to do the right thing because it's right, regardless of who's watching, what the outcome is, or whatever anybody else. You're not there to really change somebody else's mind, or to fix the world, or to really do anything. You just stay aligned with what you think is right, and you move towards it. And then however things turn out, you're just going to have to be okay with that too. But this sense withdrawal is something I feel like most of us, I mean, especially if anyone ever wants to get into a meditative state or into stillness where they're listening to their higher self, we need to do less media, less Wi-Fi, less toxicity, like, and not just even in our minds, but in our bodies, with all of the genetically modified food and the spraying that we do, and all of the things that are clearly toxifying our bodies. The more we do all of these things, it's like we're putting a veil on top and like a filter, and it becomes harder and harder to see the truth and to see this divinity, when we're always bogged down by all of these layers that are making it hard for us to see the truth. And especially now with the world we live in, where we have so many deep fakes and so much, you don't even know if it's real. Like, to discern what's real is becoming increasingly difficult.
Yeah.
But then the answer really is to come back to who you were before you ever heard any of those things. And we were loved. We trusted our neighbors. We loved the world. We were nice people. Like, we, and even when I look around, not at the global news, but at my own neighborhood, my neighbors are lovely. Like, we all support and help each other, and we all do things for each other. It's only the global news all of a sudden seems so overwhelmingly negative. And if we kind of come back into, like, the things we can affect, ourselves, our family, our extended people around us, and if we fill that with love and with light, then hopefully that ripples out beyond, and and kind of unplug maybe from those bigger things that we're not really affecting change anyway. All we're doing is diminishing our light.
Do you know, I keep on saying what you're saying is so correct. It's music to my ears. As you said, there's so much going on around us that's not nice. And all that negative energy and all the negative news, the negative things we see, the negative thing is going, we're like a sponge, we're soaking it in, and it's affecting our own wave. And we need to block that out, and we need to stay away from that. And we need to reconnect, as you did, inwardly to source. But the thing is, once we do that, as you've done, and as many are doing, we start to think differently. We start to not want to hear that, listen to that news. We start to not want to tune so much into negative things on the internet. There are lovely things on the internet, on YouTube and what, but when we start to connect, we start to be more picky on what we're listening to, what we're allowing into our energy field. And once we start to do that, it also helps us to look at, as you said, Dana, even our food. We start to become more aware of things that are happening around us, the foods we eat and the people we talk to and what we do. And the moment we start, because in a way, what's going out there is a reflection of what was happening to us. When we start to change and we start to think differently and we start to pick differently, and as you say, you've moved from the city into a suburb. It's greener, and the way you now look at probably feed your children and things you're looking at, you're becoming more aware. And then also, as you said, we can't do the world, but we can do things around us, your neighborhoods. And you start to look at in the way you talk to people and treat people, and they start to treat you. That does give a ripple effect. And the more we talk about these things and we share how we've overcome them, as you are, it gives other people permission to say, I can do this too. And when you start to do that and think that, and somebody else is doing it, it starts to spread and things can change. But it starts with us having that strength and connecting to source. And you keep on coming back to that connection with source, changing your heart, changing your mind, changing your thoughts, which change your actions.
And I think it's also beneficial for people to start to understand how powerful they are, that we actually are participating in creating reality. Because
Yes.
reality is more a projection of the consciousness, and consciousness is primary. And so when we see consciousness as primary, it means that things are coming actually from inside outwards into the world. And so I know that a lot of people are scared about the way the world is right now, because there's all these stories of World War III and all of these, authoritarian governments and all of these terrible things happening. But, the people in the powers that be understand the power of persuasion and of instilling thoughts into other people's minds. And I would say the real battleground is for the minds and for frequency. And if we understand that we are participating in making the shared human conscious, the morphic field of being human, then if we always are watching these negative things, then we're feeding the frequency and the energy that they want us to participate in their making of the world, in which they're on top and we're all subjugated underneath. But if we start to look at it differently, that I personally have power to change my life, the freedom to have my own thoughts, independent, and then the responsibility to do the right things. And I'm just, because I'm reading this book right now, I'm going to just share this. It's not really a thing that I actually do in my practice, but it's called The Secret Lives of Plants. And so this was based on this. Do you know it?
I've heard about it. I think I need to get that book and read it.
You should read it. It is amazing. So I'm only just like 2 chapters in, and I'm already floored by how they knew this in the 60s, but we don't teach this stuff in school to kids. So the whole idea is that this guy, and he's a CIA agent and an interrogist. So he doesn't even do energy healing. He's not doing anything about consciousness, but he hooks up the, I can't think of the name, a telemeter or whatever it is that they use to like test if somebody's lying or not. He put it on the plant in his office because he was bored one night. And he thought about, well, maybe what could I do to get a reaction? He tried with water first, but the plant didn't really respond that much. So he thought, you know what, I'm going to go get a match and burn a leaf. And the plant responded by thought. He didn't even get up and actually burn it. He thought about burning it and the plant responded. So for years, this got more studies, and then universities picked it up and other people. And it is beyond a shadow of a doubt shown now that plants have consciousness, which they call primary perception. So there's no nervous system, there's no brain, but there is a consciousness in the plants, and they get connected to their caregivers, who waters them, who takes care of them, what people that might harm them. Right? Like maybe the plant doesn't like a bunny because the bunny will come and eat it. Right? So they're aware, they're like a sentient being. And I think if you can even understand that even the plant is participating in this shared consciousness, which is not a brain. It is not, we are not a brain. We are not just a body. Obviously, there's a primary thing that even the plant has it. So we have it too. And in just understanding that, it changes the entire way that you look at the world. And they did another experiment, which to me was mind-blowing, which is they shredded the plant up into little pieces. And even at the smallest point, when they put the reader on it, the plant was still able to communicate, which says now that it's not the whole. It's even down to like a part of it, which means that we are fractal of something bigger.
Yes.
Right. And that we also are not just one part of our body. We are a whole. And the whole is contained, like everything is contained in even the smallest cell, in the microcosms, like in the subatomic to the cosmos. All of it is non-local. All of it is holographic. All of it is energy. And we are a piece of it. We belong to it. We are not separate from it. And once you have that knowing, how can a diagnosis like MS throw you off? Because you are so much more, and you're going to move beyond even this body, right? This is just one thing. And when you look at that bigger picture, then your soul has so much more meaning. And this is just one little piece. So don't get stuck in the suffering of this life or this moment. because
No.
you're connected to something that is just so much vaster and so beautiful, and it is perfect, which means you're perfect too.
And this is why they say we are an extension of the Creator, and the Creator's omnipresence, omnipresent, everything. And we are just one part, an extension of Him, and we're all connected. And as you say, shredding the plant, and I'm sure they took one piece, but if they took several pieces of that plant, they will get a reaction. So we're all connected, not just plants, but animals. So, you know, when you start to understand that, we start to have more respect. We start to think differently, and probably that love in our connection. And therefore, when we see something happening on the other side of the world that's not nice, it does affect us because we're all connected. If we don't want to feel bitterness and hatred, then we are exuding love. We want to exude that love throughout, and we're all part of that. We're all part of the Creator who's experiencing that which we're giving out.
And you know, when I
And
was reading the
yeah,
the experiment about the plants, I mean, I already understood because of my work as an energy healer. I understood the quantum idea of like non-locality and entanglement. All of those things weren't like, I know for other people, when they hear them for the first time, it might be, wow, that's really expansive. I already understood those things. I think the part that really struck me, and I had to keep going back and reading that part over and over to really understand how profound the idea was, is that the plant was witnessing me and it was experiencing me. So even though I might have been sitting in the room and I was doing no bad behaviors and I was doing nothing negative, my thoughts were being witnessed and felt by the plant. And all of a sudden, when that is the case, I feel like I have such an obligation and a responsibility now, even just to my house plant, like never mind to society and to the, you know, to my family and to other people, that I need to control my temper or what I say or, you know, what actions I'm taking. But like even just down to the simple fact that the plant is witnessing me and being impacted by me. So even when I'm meditating now on my house, it's not just my bunny wanting to come out to meditate and the dog because they like the energy. I'm like, is the plant happy? You know, all right. And then you feel such a communion and also an like, I think like with freedom, because we're all screaming for freedom these days with the oppression and the things we see in the world, and people don't know the opposites of things sometimes, right? And the opposite of freedom is not slavery. The opposite of freedom is responsibility. You're free to make a choice, but only if you can take responsibility for the outcomes of those choices that you're given. You're given free will because you have to be responsible for the choices you make. And I feel like even in my house now, I'm responsible to whether my plant is thriving or not, because it's feeling me.
Yeah.
And so I want to be that person where it's not just my actions, but like, what are my intentions underneath the actions? Because cause and effect is a real thing that we're living in. We're part of that. And so, you know, I don't want to just live in effect anymore where I let the outside world dictate what's going on with me. I want to be the cause.
Yes.
I want to cause the things, the effects that I want to happen around me. And, you know, it starts maybe with your houseplant, meditation, yourself, but it does extend because of this connection that we have. It does ripple out into all other beings and beyond, I believe. Like, I mean, I don't really know how to prove that there's, you know, other dimensions or cosmos, but I mean, if we believe that we're all part of something bigger, it obviously it's infinite. It doesn't end.
Well, if the fact that they say every little star system is a planet, well, we're a planet and there's life. What makes us think that we're the only life? So there's billions of things are going on, but here on Earth, we're all evolving at a certain way. And we understand that we have a connection and we have a responsibility and how we treat our environment. And whilst we are just in this space, but collectively, we can have a beautiful world, but we have to think differently. Dana, this has been a wonderful conversation, and I know we can go on and we can go on, and I'm sitting here and I'm just, and you know, my face is just beaming, as you can see, because you're saying everything which is so true, so down to earth, so practical, that I know that the listeners, they've got so much out of this practicality for our individual life. you've talked about, you wrote a book. What is the book that you've written?
It's called Unlearn Disease, Relearn Wellbeing. And the
Okay.
book takes you through the 5 koshas of yoga, which is like a layered framework for healing, where you heal the physical body, energy body, mental body, wisdom body, and eventually the bliss body. But and like how we talked about today, you don't need to perfect one to get to the next. They're all connected to each other. They're all important, and they're all like factors that we need to connect back into if we want to experience the highest life that we can, the highest potential, the highest life, the purpose that we're here for now. Because we're going to address every layer of the body to take off the veils, to bring back in connection and harmony, and and then just to be okay with how life turns out with us, and to be connected, and to have conversations just like this, and to spread them everywhere, and to be living our best lives.
Exactly. Now, how can people connect with you if they want to speak to you, if they want to ask you a question? How can we all connect with you?
So my website is energyovermatter.com. And on my website, you'll find all kinds of resources there. You can also find me like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, everything under Energy Over Matter. And I do free healing circles once a month, which you can connect to through my website. And healing circles I made free just so that we can have people that might physically not be able to come due to health conditions or where they are in the world. We do all things energy healing, sound healing, and we just have community there. And then people can connect from my website for all my personal services for healing that I work on with people.
Okay. And just before you go, you mentioned sound healing. Can you just briefly say to people who are listening, what is it? How do you do this sound healing? So that some people have never heard about it, so they can get an idea.
So sound healing is a way to change the frequency in the body. So a lot of times when we get disconnected, we have like oscillations in our field. So say it's a trauma, it's an emotion that got stuck. It's something in our biofield, because we all emit a biofield that goes out around us. And sometimes things get stuck there. And when they're stuck there for a long time, the signature of the blueprint and your energy gets damaged, and it can result in, mental anguish, physical discomfort, and, hopefully not as severe as getting MS, but, all of these things, parts of our body are connected. So sound is a way that I can come in and I do it in 2 different ways. So one is private sessions where I use tuning forks, and the tuning forks, if you're aware of like when you strike one, another one at the same frequency will resonate. So what I'm doing is I'm playing the frequency to your body, and the body, it's like a mirror. So your body will hear that it doesn't sound right. And when it hears that it's not sounding right, it tries to come back into balance so that the blueprint of your energy is aligned again. And then I also do public sound baths where we have like a group of people, and we usually meditate together. And then, people just lay blindfolded on the floor, cozy in blankets. And, it's an immersive experience where I play crystal singing bowls and chimes and different kinds of wind instruments. And it's a beautiful way, because a lot of people have a hard time meditating because their mind is so active, they don't know how to shut down. So when you play sound, it gives the analytical left brain something to think about.
Yes.
Well, the right brain that's more embodied, and it's the subconscious, it's where the autopilot is running. It has a chance to recalibrate and to have creative solutions and to heal. So sound healing is a beautiful way to heal the body and the frequency without having to necessarily revisit your trauma, because we don't have to talk about what's wrong or what happened or re-trigger. We just go right to vibrating and right to cellular healing.
I like the sound healing, so I will be visiting your website because I find it's very good indeed. So Donna, can you, before we say goodbye, and so grateful for this time that we spent with you and listening to you, can you give us a nugget or 2 of advice to those that are listening who are on their journey and need some just advice along their way?
I think the number one thing for me always is gratitude. I do not believe that there's a higher vibration than gratitude. And I believe that when you start to practice that, it changes your outlook on everything. So in my family, because I have a hard time getting everybody to agree to do any kind of prayer or grace, we do gratitude instead. And so when we sit down to eat a meal, we always go around the table and everybody says 5 things that they're grateful for. And in the beginning, it was hard for people to come up with those things. But now I find that at the table, we interrupt each other, and not out of rudeness, but because one person's gratitude triggers something in somebody else where they're like, oh yeah, me too. And then this other thing. And I find like, this is the moment we're all sitting down to break bread together and share. And it used to be people on their phone or disconnected or fighting or complaining about, oh, you didn't pick up this thing or you didn't do that. Or, and all of a sudden now we switch the entire thing to gratitude. And it makes not only your mind frame healthier, but it makes the food better too, because you're being grateful for everything that's being given to you. And the thing about gratitude is it expands. So when you start, and you can be grateful no matter what. And I want to say that to people too, even when all I could do was lay on the floor, I could still find things to be grateful for. And this is not about toxic positivity. It's not about making up a story that says, oh, I'm grateful for this or that and not believing it. It is really embodying the feeling, because there is always something to be grateful for. And if you can take a breath, then you're still alive. Be grateful for that. Right. And if you have a floor to lay on and a pillow to put your head on, if that's where you're laying right now, be grateful for the pillow. Like there always is something. And as you live in that frequency, you will attract more things to be grateful for, and all of the health and the abundance, the things you're looking for, they will find you once you resonate at that frequency. And the last little nugget, I mean, it's not even so much a technique or a thing, but just to like leave people with the idea that just have hope, and that it's okay, that no matter where you are in the world and what the world looks like outside right now, that there is so much hope in healing and so much hope in each other. The fact that we're having this conversation, that we've met each other, that we're doing this, and that the people that need to hear it are hearing it, that we are so powerful and that we're so capable. And so everybody just have some gratitude, take responsibility for your internal dialogue, and then the actions that you express in the world. And if we all take that one step in our own personal lives, it will ripple through all of the morphic field, and we will create the world that we all want to be in. And everybody will gravitate towards beauty and light. So if we make it, just like that baseball, I don't know what the movie is, if you make it, they will come. It is the same thing. If we make a beautiful world and we give another option, people will gravitate towards this, and then beauty wins.
Bless you for that. Thank you so much. And thank you all to those who have listened to this podcast. I know you've got a wealth of information from here, a wealth of knowledge that can help you along your way. And thank you so much, Danya Wylder, for joining us here today and sharing your story. For I, one, have thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you for all the gold nuggets you've given us there. So for now, everyone, take care. Have a wonderful week. Bye for now.